This is a sample chapter from Fitton books.
Chapter 4. I tapped my fingers on the recliner. After lingering on Phobos, the hatch doors hummed and slowly spread apart. This unfamiliar port was loaded with rows of upscale shops and cafes. It serviced miners as well as technical people traveling between Phobos and the Martian surface. Desmond Turcotte had factories on this moon. The terminals bustling, and the incessant aroma of foods that I could not enjoy filtered into the ship. I had just filed a phony report with the freighter shuttle's captain, and risked losing my license, which was of little consequence if whoever killed Jenna Belkin knew I was alive. The hatchway fully unfolded, and I rumbled down the abrasive silcoplast ramp. Rennie, his arms folded across his chest, slouched near a green silcoplast railing on the upper shop mezzanine. He pointed at me and stood upright. I shook my head as he gingerly tiptoed down the spiral stairs. I met him on the bottom of the staircase. His eyes were bloodshot and his facial wrinkles deeper. "You've been through the ringer."
"Just a little hungover,"
he said, pursing his lips. His breath had the potency of a shorted zip relay, and his voice had sunk an octave. He handed me another zip.
"I need ploy, mate."
"Mr. Latrobe, to you," I said, sliding out Grizz's wallet and zip.
"The zip is erased, but the drive indicates it was issued from Earth."
"Where on Earth?" I said loudly over the general noise in the courtyard.
"Cape Town. I wonder if this guy was at Nevis's funeral."
"Change your power, Rennie. I'm very concerned." Rennie rubbed his eyes.
"Me too. They are extremely concerned about Jenna Belkin's death."
"I know they are. Something else is going on here. I can feel the tension."
"Anything else on the zip?"
"No. If we had the time, we could trace the frequency ID numbers, but we don't. Look, I just sent a communique to a guy named Sam Saganovich. I believe he was one of the clowns that pulled me off the liner. He was listed as the prime contact in a handwritten note in Grizz's wallet."
"Grizz?"
"Latrobe. It's a long story."
"What did you tell Saganovich?"
"I had the captain send it. It said Latrobe had killed Cobb." Rennie raised his brows and smiled.
Very good, very good. I assumed you did that."
"You did? Is this zip programmed with my settings?"
"Hidden, but you can access it. I've been in contact with the Bureau."
"Why, Rennie?"
"When I heard about Jenna being killed. I have several old chums from the transaction zone."
"Oh?"
"This may have gone through your old boss."
"O'Neill?"
"Via John Patno. Harry, you've been activated as a Bureau agent."
"You're kidding."
"Nope."
"Put it on record that I didn't request this, and also put on the record that this is very suspicious. Your buddies did this?"
"No. They filed an anonymous source report. Section 5 picked up on it, and then they met me before I left the zone. Look, they aren't a part of this Alder, Severance, and clique. They want answers, too."
"Sure, let Cobb put his life out on the line."
"No, Bill McCabe."
"Convenient I should be dead. I don't like this. It stinks. What about the rest of the Bureau? This will get out."
"McCabe's background is in my zip."
"A bad feeling about this, even if it is contained in Section 5. Rennie smiled.
"Sadie's been informed of this little escapade."
"Good."
"When we land, everyone must think you're dead, Harry."
"Land?"
"On Triton, of course. There's a contact there from 5. Actually 2. Pollux and Castor. I have a ship."
"You're amazing."
"My trademark."
We scurried up the stairs to the upper terminal. I dragged Rennie into a candy shop and stood next to slanted shelves of chocolates. Rennie popped one of the samples into his mouth and then threw one to me. Maybe the raspberry flavor would freshen his transaction zone breath. "Okay, Rennie, what the hell is going on? What do these 2 contacts know, and who was trying to kill me?" He chewed the gooey chocolate as he replied.
"Unknown on the Triton contacts. O'Neill has to be very careful. And I talked to John Patno in Livingston."
"Does Patno know what happened on that freighter shuttle?" Rennie shook his head and plucked another free nugget from the dish. Then he placed another one in my hand.
Course. Pat no talk to O'Neill.
Did O'Neill do this McCabe cover?
No, it's not indicated that. And O'Neill, he got briefings fed into that zip.
I smiled. Good. What did the briefings say?
Just a general briefing, Harry. Nothing classified. Mrs. Belkin had a stellar career, mate. Very efficient woman. Resources will miss her services. Something was afoot, even weeks back. Apparently she's been doing a lot of traveling as of late. From the moon.
O'Neill is on the moon.
Exactly. She met with O'Neill on what was supposed to be a security matter. In the open area, she started talking about this extraterrestrial nonsense.
The chocolate was melting in my fingers. I quickly placed it in my mouth. This one had an orange taste, mixed with the chocolate. Both Mark and Jenner are firm believers in the extraterrestrial presence in the solar system.
Wonderful. When they got in private, O'Neill said she was fearful for her life even then. 3 weeks ago, he said, she was beginning to feel pressured, and had been pressured.
Pressured by whom? Rennie stopped. His eyes watered and his right brow slowly moved upward.
Probably by the same jokers who just tried to send you to sleep in space.
Just hope Phil Severson doesn't get wind of this. I closed my eyes and pinched the bridge of my nose. The chattering of kids stormed into the shop and rumbled through the shelves. A chiding clerk descended upon them, and I dragged Rennie back outside.
Section 5, we're safe,
he said, and we began walking.
And that may be good if Alda was somehow...
Come on, Rennie. You're saying the Bureau had something to do with Jenna's death? Rennie tightened his brow.
Not necessarily, but you know how the Bureau does things. The ISIS cartel. Maybe the Bureau's covering up the shenanigans.
So someone in 5 thinks I can pull off this McCabe thing. We passed bright red and white table umbrellas outside of a cafe.
Because you know the Belkins, and secondly, everyone in the Bureau never wanted you to leave.
Well, I'm retired, and when this is over, I'll be retired again. Rennie grinned but winced and held both sides of his head. He asked one of the waiters for a chilled water.
The information I have, Harry, is that she met with a man named Bernie Sorrell.
Sorrell?
Sorrell works for a Luna based in Porter. Mostly deals in food and liquor enterprises around the solar system, but he and Porter and Sorrell are both connected to the cartel. Jacob Levinsky.
Levinsky is the cartel. The waiter returned, and I inputted a droid scan into a zip. I handed the container to Rennie, along with a mild Slauser pill to dull his headache. Here.
Thanks, mate.
He immediately placed the tiny blue striped pill on his tongue and guzzled the water. As he spoke, he gestured with the clear container in his hands.
And half an hour later, her tracer blew up on Triton.
Where is he now? We resumed our trek through the square.
Unknown.
And her tracer? Where was it headed when she was killed?
To Warehouse 16, inside Station 32, down south. Station 32 is a huge dome.
I know. I was there a long time ago. An ugly place.
We have to be careful. After what happened to you on that shuttle, I'm convinced that whoever is behind this will kill us without blinking an eye if they feel we're in their way.
He paused and smiled.
Slauser's kicking in. Good. Thanks.
Great. I understand about them killing us. And I'm also increasingly aware that Jenna's death was no accident. Nor was she killed in some isolated incident. I need to talk to O'Neill.
You can send him a message, but talking direct to him right now is not safe.
So where do we go from here? He pointed to the ramps under a huge glowing green Phobos port sign.
Express freighter to Io, then we get the private ship to Triton. It'll take 5 days with those slow vessels. Neptune is way out there.
Need to contact Mark, too. He must be overwhelmed by Jenna's death.
You may not be able to do that either, Harry. But we will have some advantages in going to Triton. Does the law of embarkment jar your memory?
Yes, I remember the Triton is very independent. They don't like governmental interference.
The Bureau would have attempted negotiation with the Triton Council to send an entire team to Station 32. And, no luck, you and I are it.
Mars was rusty beyond its lumpy moon. The main engines shook the freighter. I wiped my brow in the warm air. Someone had not adjusted the air circulation monitors. Rennie had gone to the front cabin to finalize the secure channel with the freighter communications officer. I was still a little uneasy with the McCabe identity, and I needed O'Neill to verify that Section 5 had actually reactivated me. This guy, McCabe, fictitiously worked Earth for the last 8 years, which is good since I didn't want to start explaining why nobody knew me out here. I checked my central text and opened my eyes when I saw 3 were from Angelique. Texting her was not smart. I looked down. Where did you go? You must have found a new catch. If you only knew, Miss Angelique, I said out loud, knowing I could not return the text. I scrolled to the next one. Guess I know where I stand. I could sense her soft lips when I closed my eyes. In my mind, we walked into a quiet room with small candles wavering in the gentle evening breeze. A Brahms piano suite played on the surrounds. I felt a sharp nudge in my ribs. I opened my eyes. Rennie, clad in a gray fatigue suit that blended into the silcoplast walls, nodded at me.
Tired, Harry?
Just a little stressed. His blue eyes had lost the exposed blood vessels, and he looked rested.
You'll see her again.
I grinned. You know me all too well. I shuffled behind him down the narrow hall to the bridge and brought up her last message. Silence from Harry Cobb. Horace is calling. We're off to Io. Hope you like the poem. Bye. Just my luck.
Is she on the text again?
Asked Rennie. I nodded, but sensed a secure channel would be safe. We need to talk to O'Neill anyways. I'll use that channel for text.
Are you mad, Harry?
This is a private affair.
I'm sure it is. God damn you, Harry. This major power inter-struggle is happening, and all you're worried about are your own...
I always worry about my own. You worry about getting me to Triton. I knew he was right about contacting Angelique as I strode toward the silver-lighted passageway. We both stopped at the forward portal. Rennie leaned forward and squinted at Mars as he spoke.
Talked with the captain. The secure frequency was supposed to be for O'Neill, but whatever.
How many droids is that going to cost me?
Screw you, Harry.
I pressed my lips and then put my hand on his shoulder. That was stupid. Sorry, Rennie. The long age lines extending from his high cheekbones deepened. He turned and his blue eyes focused on me.
We have the room for 20 minutes. You do what you need to do. None of my business.
He motioned me forward. Calling Mark would make sense, too. Our boots echoed as we reached the forward hatch. I tried to reason out what happened. Jenna was just killed in a tremendous blast. Mark was missing, but maybe it was the law of embarkation that gave him the latitude to investigate on his own. Rennie half raised his brow as we neared the front area. He inserted his security card into the side slot and the hatch slid open. The captain and 4 side station officers were seated amidst an array of green and blue lights. He joined them up front and joked with the officers as if he had known them for years. Then he signaled me over. This control area had cleaner air, and the temperature was moderate.
Here's my bureau buddy, Bill McCabe. This is Captain Norton.
Norton was a large man with short brown hair. He had just devoured a prodigious sandwich and wiped his mouth.
McCabe, how are things on Earth?
Air, sun, and bodies of water.
You'll have to forgive me. I've been in the interest so many damn years. The things of Earth sometimes don't seem real.
Jaffrin, gentlemen? Thank you, I said, and his sandy-haired second-in-command removed 2 mugs from the side dispenser. I could use a little time in the intro, I told him as I grasped the mug. Thank you.
Are you 2 joining us?
Asked the captain. Joining you? I asked, glancing at Rennie.
Why, yes,
he said, and the other station officers chuckled.
Rennie has produced accommodations for us in the transaction zone.
Oh, well, I never pass up a good time, I said with a phony smile and patted Rennie on the back. Now, I will officially thank you on behalf of the Bureau for giving us access to your communications room.
Always happy to help the Bureau, said Norton, facing Rennie. And, of course, the additional. The additional, mate.
Norton opened up the communications room hatch from his chair and leaned toward us. There you go, boys. Thank you, Captain. We smiled, but my smile fell away when Rennie secured the closer. What did you just promise him?
Let's just say that's between the captain and myself.
I want to reach Mark Belkin. The little room was freezing cold, and an annoying beep repeated on the console. I warmed my hands on the Jaffrin mug. Why can't they have a consistent temperature in here?
Who the hell knows? Here, I have his information.
You can get rid of that beeping. Rennie mangled his lips and turned toward the console.
Anything else? Can I get you another Jaffrin syrup? Perhaps a blaster?
Sarcasm is the fuel of weak minds.
Yeah, okay. Your blip and beep is gone.
Thank you, I said as I sat in the recliner. On a viewer, the condensed group of zip channels were highlighted under the stars. Mars, set against the starry night, had shrunk even in the few minutes since we were underway. From the adjacent recliner, Rennie summoned the frequencies and punched in the codes. He looked at me and nodded.
This is Mark Belkin's room at the Matterhorn.
I remember the Matterhorn. The only decent place in that dome. I exhaled and leaned back in the recliner as the zip signal's red dots crossed the white screen. When the elapsed time reached a minute, I cut the transmission. Not in.
You'll have to prepare yourself for the possibility they got him too, Harry.
I pressed my lips at that prospect. I'm trying his personal zip.
Good idea,
said Rennie, placing another call on the zip window across the room. You know, I had a feeling you'd be calling the cruise liner from the zone.
Oh?
I added Mark's personal zip on the menu and fired the button, but nothing connected. Damn, where is he?
Hopefully he's trying to locate his wife's murderers, which may not be a smart thing for him if the cartel is involved.
Rennie summoned yet another channel.
This could take a few minutes. I'm putting in a request to Station 32. You'll be dealing, Mr. McCabe, with an inspector called Buck Wiley. Could take a few minutes.
Told Mark not to get into trouble. He was so adamant. I opened a secure text channel, and then I typed in. I can't disclose where I am or what I'm doing, but I'll get back to you. There. Over and done with.
At least you didn't put in your name.
Are you monitoring my text, Rennie?
Yes.
I don't track your comings and goings around the zone.
That, mate, is a prudent move.
I smiled, sent the text, and stared out the portal into the darkness. My brow tightened as Rennie chatted with lower-level Station 32 personnel. Mark was now operating outside his usual realm of numbers and balance sheets to investigate his wife's death. Rennie listened on the surrounds as I peered into deep space. What surprised me was that he argued so vehemently with someone on the channel.
You don't have that kind of authority, mister.
I spun around to the window. A tall man with a spotty gray, whiz-cut hair, very close to his skull, waved his arms. He had blue dog eyes and repeatedly exposed his lower teeth. Who the hell is that?
That, my friend, is Mr. Buck Wiley.
What a bilge loader. Wiley wore a charcoal-colored suco and paced around a room loaded with scanners and communications consoles. His voice was grating from the first word.
I don't have to tell you anything. You're asking questions about an ongoing investigation. And I'm the Station 32 officer in charge, pal.
Well, I'd like to ask you a few questions. Wiley squinted.
Ain't that nice? And who the hell are you?
Bill McCabe, ISB.
I don't see no identification on my zip.
Rennie slipped me a disc with the phony information. I stuck it into the communications port. Wiley leaned over and placed both hands on the counter and read the data.
Checks out. So you're the guy. We told the Bureau and the Insurer we don't want to be inundated with off-Tritoners.
It's just me and Mr. Coburn.
To me, this Belkin thing is plain and simple, an accident.
Wiley appeared as if he didn't want to know anything that might require him to perform extra duties. Right, I know that. All I'm asking for is Mr. Coburn and myself to do our job.
Well, don't expect me to be your lackey. I won't be intimidated by the Bureau.
Mark Belkin, where is he?
I told that guy,
he said, raising his index finger,
to back off.
It was his wife, Inspector.
I don't care if she was Neptune's mother. I'm aware of her resources assignment. We tracked her from her arrival and her setup, even on her night walks with her husband. Nothing out of the ordinary, and I ordered surveillance cut back.
Oh, really? There are things going on with Jenna Belkin, and you know it, Buck.
You're dreaming.
I'm aware that Station 32's colony has 5 million people, and the conditions are not good.
Now I'm dealing with a social critic.
He said to the man behind him.
Look, this place is what it is.
I thought back about my short stay on Station 32 years ago. The dome was situated on the southern edges of a moon of Neptune, a distant settlement far out of the intrasolar system. Station 32 first housed uranium and metal miners from the prodigious Ice Mountains. It was a prosperous area until about 50 years ago, when the Jovian moon mines began booming. Wild stories, including a-human sightings, abounded this far out. Now Station 32 had a large populace with not enough jobs. People lived in crowded conditions and went to bed hungry. Jenna Belkin's visit to Triton was to help conditions on Station 32. Was there anything about her being there that would cause someone to be upset? Wiley shrugged his shoulders.
No, not at all. Unless you believe in little creatures and star trackers.
Jenna always talked about the possibility of off-solar life, a-humans.
She was originally here years ago. Look, McCabe, the old-time miners had legends. That's what happens when you have nothing to do.
Did her work upset anyone?
Getting shipments from resources was a good thing. You'd have to be insane to refuse food, and especially the energy.
Energy? I asked, but still did not reveal what I knew about O'Neill and the Ravine packets.
Right.
Anything unusual?
I know nothing, except Belkin and his wife were walkers. They kept in shape, I guess. I didn't see anything wrong in that. They were friends with David Tweed.
Who?
He's been the administrator for our prison, our one prison here on Station 32, for years. He goes way back. But I could care less about the Belkin social list.
Any place unusual they walked?
Look, McCabe, you find out if they walk down Lover's Lane at the prison. I've got things to do.
Why the prison? I stroked my chin. This guy was an annoyance. I want to know about the Ravine pilferage.
Ravine energy packets? I know nothing. That's not what they're paying you for.
Can you spare anyone to help us?
Do I look like a subcontract agency? Is the Bureau having budget cuts?
Oh, I thought someone familiar with the local terrain.
Try the security guy at the Matterhorn. He used to be with the Bureau. Ask him to play Sherlock Holmes.
The Bureau appreciates help, you know that.
Right. Bureau arrogance. Ravine packets. How did you come up with that one?
I know nothing.
Oh, funny man.
Will you let me know about Mark Belkin? We can't raise him on a zip.
Listen, if Belkin shows up, we'll buzz you.
Then his face assumed a seriousness, as if he were thinking about a lost love.
Look, McCabe, if I could help, if I had the opportunity, I'd do what I'm told. There are forces operating here that you don't want to know about.
What do you mean by that?
It means I just do what I have to do.
Well, what if somebody blew up that tracer? I said in a louder voice.
You have a conspiratorial mind.
If it wasn't something on Triton, then it had to be somebody she butted heads with.
Who knows? You'll have to determine that. We have people at the station hangar here to meet you. Then you're on your own.
We thank you.
Right. Wiley out.
I removed the surrounds. Rennie closed his eyes and shook his head.
I'd like to zap his zip.
I know nothing. He's all right, Rennie.
All right. Come on, mate.
He said, setting down his mug, and he stood.
I hate this Triton mentality. The guy's a little weasel. Whichever way the wind is blowing.
So, what's the big deal? Rennie's blue eyes popped open, and I laughed as I put my hand on his shoulder. Wiley is not our problem here.
He could be.
Who from the Bureau is security at the Matterhorn?
We could ask O'Neill or just wait until we get there.
True. Then we deal with him when we have to. My concern, as I said to Wiley, was Jenna murdered, or did it have to do with Ravine packets? I really need to talk to John O'Neill. The implications are something we may not be capable of dealing with, Rennie.
I told you, I have his secure address.
Get him. We need to input this before we get to Triton. Rennie positioned himself in the recliner, but looked pensive.
A commissioner murdered means people in high places are involved.
Maybe, I said, pinching my lower lip. Rennie spoke O'Neill's address into the zip. The routing sectors formed red perforated lines on the zip window, diagramming the line from this freighter accelerating from Phobos to O'Neill somewhere on the lunar surface. The zip would not connect. Maybe we'll try back. I twisted my lips as I thought about Wiley's attitude.
Now give me a minute, mate.
Rennie brought a smaller zip to the console and tweaked several sub-addresses. He nodded his head and smiled.
That'll do it.
Are you sure?
This has you jittery.
Sure it does, I said, returning to the portal. We were in deep space now, and I clenched my fist. Jenna didn't deserve to die.
Maybe she did.
My head snapped back. The hell are you talking about?
In the eyes of somebody, she most assuredly deserved to die.
Maybe he was right, but I again revisited the same question. Who would kill somebody engaged in peace?
John O'Neill.
The voice was distinctive and clear. I stared at the output.
Rennie Coburn here.
Rennie, you old zone cruncher, you? Still working for that space dog?
You bet he is, I said loudly. Rennie, gaping grin on his face, leaned back in the recliner. He placed his clasped hands behind his thick dusty hair and closed his eyes.
I hear your fees are undroidable,
said O'Neill. O'Neill stood in front of a series of gray-white lunar hills. His hair was peppered, cropped short, and he was squeezed into a black suco with a loop blue logo for Harkin Energy. Depends. I gazed into his blue eyes. O'Neill, I see the lunar landscape is agreeing with you.
1 minute,
he said, and he placed a larger zip next to the portal and studied the window.
Okay, good.
He smiled and looked directly at us.
I know this says a secure channel, but I wanted to be sure.
That's why both of us are alive today.
At least one of us,
he said with a grin. Then his face fell flat.
Jenna.
I have no answers.
Something isn't right about this whole thing, Harry.
Resources is a peace-oriented organization. Jenna spent her life bringing the essentials to the poor in the solar system. O'Neill's face was shaded blue from the screen.
That is exactly right. 5 years ago, the Tyrannid colony here on the moon was trumpeted as a model for administrative success. In just 2 years, she not only fed 3.5 million starving people, but she revitalized the job base.
I was at the ceremony, but I never delved into how, and that's at the crux, isn't it?
I'm not sure. Energy was involved, too. Fuel cells only power up that colony, but large plants were built.
And how?
I've been looking into this,
he said, checking his window.
Jenna mentioned she was under pressure when I met with her 2 weeks ago, but she refused to elaborate. We would have met again. I've since found a bureau-wide alert about her stealing Ravine energy packets.
Stealing? For what? That's incredible. Rennie's eyes opened and he sat up. Why did the Bureau allow me to pose as McCabe?
I contacted Section 5 after John Patno called me about the Latrobe thing. I created Bill McCabe.
You? I should have guessed that. O'Neill grinned.
You're the one man I trust to get to the bottom of this. And Rennie, he has so many angles. Find answers on Triton. I have 2 contacts, but I'm not sure if they know each other. Word from Triton is that this man, we'll call him Pollux, sent Jenna's tracer out to the Matterhorn Hotel. From where, I don't know. The second contact is a former Bureau agent.
Really? Who is it?
I only found his record. He was recently dismissed. Somehow, he got my sub-addresses. This is what he said. He was not satisfied that Jenna's death was an accident, and he brought up a Levinsky operative's name. It was this dismissed agent's opinion that larger forces were responsible for the explosion.
Who is this former agent?
The security chief at the Matterhorn, a Calvin Glavin. And you're going to identify with this. He was fired by Phil Severinsen. His bureau background has been expunged.
Severinsen? We both know that scenario. That tells me Glavin was a threat to Severinsen and Alder.
You need to find Glavin and the Levinsky connection. You and Rennie can do it.
I appreciate the vote of confidence. I'll remember it when Jacob Levinsky sends his henchmen out to kill me.
Harry, listen. Jenna had help in her career.
Oh?
This may be unsettling.
What is it?
And it may be a pattern.
What?
And it could explain her success. I talked to personnel in 5. Section 5 had field reports. And continuously the reports were expunged.
By whom? Felix Alder. O'Neill's face tightened.
You know what I think of Alder? He pushed us both out of the Bureau. Felix surrounds himself with lesser agents. He always has.
I never trusted him. I mean, even outside what happened to me. I know for a fact he's crooked.
Section 5 field reports are missing, and so are some of the agents who created them. Rumors abound of payoffs to Jenna. Much of it involves Jenna's stay in Africa.
Nevis was from Africa, and Rennie told me about the Ravine spill outside his village.
I know. I've made arrangements to secretly speak with 2 people who actually read the reports on Jenna's connections, as well as the spill.
Is the Bureau involved in her death?
Maybe. Or the cartel. She did receive droid supplements. That's provable. As far as the ravine, I have no idea what's going on. This is the greater crime for sure. If Nevis was murdered, the cartel will be under immediate suspicion.
Mention of the cartel felt like a pulsar wave ripping through my stomach. I wet my lips several times and shook my head. John, do you have any evidence of this?
The ravine is a fact, and the connections between Jenna, the Bureau, and the cartel are fact. Harry, everything I've learned is being funneled to Richard Merritt on Mars.
Merritt is the Adjutant General. O'Neill leaned forward. I almost felt as if I were really looking into his blue eyes.
Does the name Bernie Sorrell mean anything to you?
Rennie shrugged his shoulders, and I put my hands on my hips. Never heard of him.
Works for Bartos Intersolar.
Bartos is a part of the cartel.
Yes. Sorrell works out of Port 15, Copernicus Crater, and he met with Jenna on Triton just before the tracer explosion. This is the odd thing. Jacob Levinsky has a retreat on Triton. Levinsky's tentacles are all over the Bartos board appointments as well as the money flow. I got this from Fred Switzer.
Fred. How is he in Bureau tabulation?
Fred is still Fred. Look, Levinsky is legally unencumbered. We couldn't prove anything even if we had to. But I can assure you of one thing, Harry. Bartos Transport handles all of the resources shipments.
So what?
They have for years.
Again, so what?
This just isn't Bartos. It's all the food and fuel cells, even the clothes. It all traces back to the cartel using Jenna Belkin, and Jenna Belkin using the cartel.
I stared at O'Neill and then fell back in the recliner.
The starving were fed, clothed. People in the Bureau and the government looked the other way, Harry. Bottom line, people in powerful places had a vested interest in the resources operation.
And Alder?
I don't know.
O'Neill clenched his fists and panned over the lunar hills for a moment. Then he turned to us.
He may have been involved in payments to Jenna. Felix Alder is dangerous. Felix Alder is a dangerous man. I feel the Intra could be in great danger. Alder is vying for the most powerful position in the Intra.
Alder was a professional butt-kisser and backstabber.
That's how he got where he is. You and I both know that. And you and I have 100 Alder stories.
We do.
Remember this, Harry. And you and Rennie already know it. But I'll tell you anyways. Suppose you prove something between resources and the cartel, or Alder and Levinsky. It must be covert. You need to get all the information to me.
I pray to God they haven't gotten to Mark.
Get the information to me and I'll get it to Merritt. There may be no more secure channels once they run communications through Bureau zips. You'll have to do it in person. No texting to me, nothing.
Rennie raised his brows, and I thought O'Neill might know something about Angelique's texts. Understood. O'Neill paused as if he did not want to say what he was going to say.
By the way, my contact on Triton alluded to the name Norman Pushk. I don't know who Pushk is, And I don't dare do any searches without sending up red flags. It could be just the Revian shipment or something to do with the tracer explosion. I'm meeting with someone this afternoon who may locate Push. For now, good luck to you both.
John, one more thing, and it's important.
Go.
Background check on Angelique Willard, an Oracle player employed by Horace Valencia.
Why?
A woman I ran into on the cruise liner. I just need to know. O'Neill nodded.
Will do.
Thanks, John.
Good luck, gentlemen.
A mass of white and gray static swirled around the window. Rennie looked up.
Who the blip is Norman Pushk? You want me to check the local catacombs?
No. Let O'Neill handle that one. Our collective plate is full.
Amidst the stars and colorful Hebon console buttons, Rennie placed his hand on my shoulder.
Harry, I'll support whatever you want me to do, but my advice is to get out of this now. This thing is way too dangerous.
No.
Then, my friend, for better or for worse, we face the fray together.
The channel, still activated, beeped. We both glanced at the text alert and then looked at each other.
Oh, come on. Harry, you heard what O'Neill said about Alder. Dump this woman now. Don't put yourself or me in any danger.
He was talking about messages to him. I pushed the screen button as Rennie rolled his eyes.
Stupid.
The nerve of that woman. You're out chasing other women and you expect me to believe that story? You're just being a martyr.
Woman,
said Rennie, turning. Oh, and you've never done anything stupid like this because of a woman. Rennie formed a cagey smile. He stared out the portal as I typed a reply.
Not something with this big brewing.
I sent the message. I don't have to listen to this. This conversation is over. Rennie grinned over my shoulder.
Guess you told her, mate.
Of course.
See how long that lasts.